Why is everyone talking about China in 2025, not just for its booming economy, but as one of the world's most fascinating travel destinations? From the skylines of Shanghai that seem to touch the clouds, to the ancient walls of Xi'an that whisper stories of emperors and warriors, China today feels like stepping into two different worlds, at once a living museum of history and a futuristic vision of tomorrow. For centuries, China has been a land of invention, philosophy, and artistry. It gave the world paper, porcelain, tea, and silk. But beyond the iconic Great Wall and terracotta warriors lies a culture alive with traditions, flavors, and lifestyles that surprise even the most seasoned traveler. In 2025, the buzz isn't just about business or technology. More people are exploring China as a destination curious to understand its people, taste its legendary food, experience its festivals, and walk through its ancient towns that stand side by side with neon-lit megacities. And here's the exciting part. In this journey, we're not just ticking off landmarks. We'll dive deep into what it actually feels like to live, breathe, and explore China, from the cost of daily life, to hidden gems, to the cultural shocks that leave visitors amazed. So, sit back and imagine this as your free ticket to China. And before we dive in, here's a small request. Just a like, a quick subscribe, and even a short comment below helps bring you more journeys like this one. Together, let's discover the wonders of China. Stretching across nearly 9.6 million square kilometers, China is the third largest country in the world, a land so vast that it could fit the entire United Kingdom more than 40 times over. From the icy tundras of Heilongjiang in the north to the tropical beaches of Hainan in the south, every corner of China feels like an entirely different country waiting to be explored. What makes China even more extraordinary is its borders. It touches 14 nations, more than any other country on Earth, tying its destiny to neighbors that include Russia, India, Vietnam, and Mongolia. This position makes China not only a regional power, but a central player in Asia's cultural and economic heartbeat. Historically, this geography gave birth to the legendary Silk Road, a network of trade routes that carried silk, spices, and ideas all the way to Europe. And today, China's modern answer, the Belt and Road Initiative, is reshaping global trade, connecting ports, railways, and highways from Asia to Africa to Europe. It's as if the spirit of the Silk Road has been reborn, but now powered by bullet trains and cargo ships. But geography here is more than just maps and borders. It's the reason China feels so diverse. In the west, deserts stretch endlessly under blazing suns. In the east, megacities like Shanghai and Beijing roar with modern life. In the south, rice terraces climb green hillsides, while in the north, ancient steppe cultures still thrive. It's a land of contrasts where one journey might take you from Himalayan peaks to futuristic skylines, from bamboo forests to neon-lit streets. This sheer scale and variety make China not just a single destination, but almost like a continent in itself. And for travelers, it means every trip offers a new world to discover. To understand China today, you must first walk through more than 5,000 years of history, a journey that begins along the banks of the Yellow River, where one of the world's oldest civilizations first took root. Here, early dynasties developed writing systems, philosophies, and technologies that would echo through human history. The Han Dynasty gave China its very name and identity, expanding its borders and establishing trade networks that stretched to Rome. The Tang Dynasty, often called a golden age, became a beacon of art, literature, and diplomacy when Chinese poets and painters shaped the aesthetics of an entire continent. Later, the Ming Dynasty left behind architectural marvels such as the Forbidden City and extended the Great Wall, symbols of both power and protection. And the Qing Dynasty, China's last imperial family, presided over a vast and diverse empire, blending tradition with global connections. But history here is not just glory. By the 19th century, China faced the intrusion of foreign powers, the Opium Wars, and the carving up of its ports by colonial empires. These humiliations sparked internal rebellion, revolution, and eventually the fall of the imperial system. In 1949, after years of civil war, Mao Zedong declared the birth of the People's Republic of China, a new chapter forged in ideology, ambition, and resilience. The decades that followed were turbulent, marked by campaigns like the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. Yet, by the late 20th century, under the reforms of Deng Xiaoping, China began an extraordinary transformation, opening its markets, modernizing its cities, and unleashing the economic power that would turn it into the world's second-largest economy. And still today, this long arc of history shapes Chinese identity. Ancient philosophies influence modern family life. Dynastic legacies echo in art and architecture. The memory of past humiliations drives the pursuit of national pride. China is a country that never truly separates past from present instead. It carries both forward, as if every stone of the Great Wall, every scroll of calligraphy, and every skyscraper rising into the sky is part of one unbroken story. If history is the foundation of China, then culture is its heartbeat, a rhythm shaped by traditions that are thousands of years old, yet still alive in the daily lives of more than 1 billion people. At the center of Chinese culture lies family. Influenced by Confucian philosophy, family values emphasize respect for elders, harmony within the household, and the idea that every individual is part of a larger whole. In China, it's common for 3 generations to share one home, with grandparents playing a central role in raising children. Compared to the more individualistic lifestyles of the United States or the United Kingdom, here, decisions from careers to marriage often carry the weight of family consensus. Equally timeless are the traditions of tea culture, calligraphy, and medicine. Tea isn't just a drink, it's an art, a symbol of hospitality, and a reflection of patience and balance. Calligraphy, with its flowing strokes, is considered not just writing, but a spiritual practice, where ink on paper reveals the inner state of the artist. Traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbal remedies, and holistic approaches continues to thrive, often side by side with modern hospitals and pharmacies. Yet, China is not a country frozen in time. Walk through Beijing's hutongs or Shanghai's neon streets, and you'll see a fascinating contrast. Young people dressed in global fashion trends, sipping bubble tea while scrolling on super apps like WeChat, yet still returning home for Lunar New Year rituals that have remained unchanged for centuries. This balance between tradition and modernity defines China today. For Western visitors, this cultural duality can feel like stepping between worlds. Imagine Londoners gathering for tea, but turning the ritual into a meditative art form, or New Yorkers rushing to work yet pausing for ancient remedies, passed down for generations. In China, old and new don't clash, they coexist, creating a society that feels both deeply rooted and endlessly dynamic. China's spiritual landscape is as vast and varied as its geography. For thousands of years, faith and philosophy have shaped how people live, celebrate, and even think about the world around them. Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism are often called the 3 pillars of Chinese tradition. Buddhism brought temples that rise like mountains of stone and rituals that emphasize compassion and mindfulness. Taoism, born in China itself, teaches harmony with nature, the flowing rivers, the shifting seasons, the balance of yin and yang. And Confucianism, while more philosophy than religion, has guided Chinese social order for over 2 millennia, embedding values of respect, duty, and community into everyday life. But China is also home to other faiths. Islam has been present here for over 1,000 years, introduced by Silk Road traders. And today, you'll find vibrant Muslim communities from Xinjiang to Xi'an. Christianity, too, has grown steadily, with churches that blend Western influence with local culture. Together, these beliefs create a mosaic of spirituality that is less about one single faith and more about coexistence. You see spirituality not only in temples and mosques, but in festivals and daily habits. The red lanterns of Lunar New Year carry wishes for prosperity. The Mid-Autumn Festival celebrates family reunion under the glow of a full moon. Even simple acts, like burning incense at a shrine or leaving food offerings for ancestors, reflect a quiet thread of belief woven into modern life. Language, too, is a bridge of culture. Mandarin Chinese is the official tongue spoken by more people than any other language in the world. But China is also a land of dialects and minority languages. Cantonese in Guangdong and Hong Kong, Shanghainese in the east, Tibetan in the highlands, and dozens more. For travelers, this means you might hear locals greet each other in ways that sound completely different, just a few hundred miles apart. In a country so large, diversity is inevitable. Yet what ties it all together is the sense that identity here is shared, built on a blend of beliefs, languages, and traditions that have survived for centuries and still thrive today. When people think of China, one image rises above all others: the Great Wall, snaking across mountains and valleys for more than 13,000 miles. Standing atop its stone battlements, you don't just see a wall. You feel the weight of centuries, the determination of emperors, and the endurance of a civilization that sought to protect its heartland at all costs. Not far from Beijing lies another marvel, the Forbidden City, once the imperial palace of Ming and Qing emperors. With its golden roofs, endless courtyards, and intricate carvings, it's not just architecture, it's a glimpse into the ritual and power that once defined an empire. For Western visitors, it feels almost like stepping into a world as grand as Versailles, but infused with the philosophy, art, and symbolism of China. Travel further west to Xi'an, and you encounter one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century: the terracotta warriors. Thousands of life-sized soldiers, each with unique faces, silently guard the tomb of China's first emperor. Imagine walking into an underground army frozen in time. It's awe-inspiring, humbling, and almost surreal. And then there's modern China, where skylines rival and often surpass those of London or New York. The Shanghai skyline, with the twisting form of the Shanghai Tower and the glowing Pearl TV tower, looks like something pulled from science fiction. At night, the lights reflecting over the Huangpu River transform the city into a futuristic wonderland. China is also home to 55 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, more than almost any other country. From the ancient caves of Dunhuang, filled with Buddhist art, to the breathtaking landscape of Jiuzhaigou Valley and the historic villages of Anhui with their timeless charm, these sites showcase the sheer variety of China's cultural and natural treasures. What makes China unique is not just these attractions themselves, but the contrast between them. In one journey, you can walk the stones of an ancient wonder, and by evening, look out from a skyscraper higher than any building in Europe. China is where the past and future stand side by side, daring you to see both in a single glance. While the Great Wall and the Forbidden City steal the spotlight, some of China's most unforgettable experiences lie far from the usual tourist path. In the misty mountains of Guizhou, small villages cling to green hillsides, where ethnic minority communities preserve traditions untouched by time. Here, wooden stilt houses rise above the earth, and festivals filled with music, embroidery, and silver jewelry bring entire villages together. For travelers, it feels less like sightseeing and more like stepping into a living storybook of China's cultural diversity. Far to the northwest, in Gansu province, the landscape transforms into something almost otherworldly. The Rainbow Mountains of Zhangye explode in vibrant waves of red, orange, yellow, and green. These surreal formations, sculpted by millions of years of wind and rain, look so colorful they seem painted by hand. Compared to the rolling hills of the UK or the deserts of the American West, this is nature at its most surreal and spectacular. And then there's the icy wonder of Harbin, in China's far northeast. Every winter, sculptors carve entire palaces, temples, and bridges out of solid ice. illuminated by glowing neon lights. The Harbin Ice and Snow Festival is like stepping into a frozen fantasy world where you can walk through crystalline castles that rival the size of real ones. But the hidden wonders aren't just landscapes or festivals, they're also in the small traditions locals cherish. In some villages, you'll find tea ceremonies passed down for generations, performed with quiet elegance. In others, elders tell folk tales by lantern light, preserving myths that rarely make it into guidebooks. Even in big cities, tucked away food stalls serve recipes known only to neighborhood families, offering flavors no restaurant chain could ever replicate. These hidden gems remind us that China is more than its famous icons. It's a land of countless surprises, waiting for travelers willing to wander a little further, look a little closer, and listen a little longer. China is often celebrated for its history and culture, but its natural beauty is just as awe-inspiring, vast, dramatic, and as diverse as an entire continent. To the west, the mighty Himalayas tower into the sky, forming the natural border with Nepal and India. Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, rises partly within China's territory, a place where climbers test the limits of human endurance. The silence of these peaks, broken only by the sound of the wind, feels like standing at the roof of the world. Flowing through the heart of the nation is the legendary Yangtze River. Stretching more than 3,900 miles, it is the longest river in Asia, shaping cities, farmland, and trade for centuries. Cruising through the Three Gorges, where cliffs rise dramatically on either side, is an experience as majestic as any canyon in the United States. Alongside it flows the Yellow River, often called the Mother River of China, the cradle of ancient civilization, carrying with it the history of dynasties and dreams. Then there are the Yellow Mountains, or Huangshan jagged peaks emerging through seas of mist, the very landscapes that inspired Chinese scroll paintings and poems for centuries. Standing here feels like stepping into a living painting, where nature and imagination blur together. But China is not only about mountains and rivers. In the far south lies Hainan, an island of palm trees, sandy beaches, and warm turquoise waters, a tropical paradise often called China's Hawaii. In striking contrast, to the northwest stretches the deserts of Xinjiang, where endless dunes meet a sky so vast it seems eternal. China's national parks are equally stunning, rivaling the best of the US and UK. Places like Zhangjiajie, with its towering sandstone pillars, inspired the floating mountains of the film Avatar. Zhujiagu Valley dazzles with turquoise lakes, snow-capped peaks, and golden autumn forests. These are landscapes so beautiful they seem unreal, yet they're very real and open for travelers to explore. In China, nature is not just scenery, it's a story written in stone, water, and sky. And each region tells its own tale, waiting for those curious enough to discover it. What is it really like to live in China beyond the postcard landmarks and tourist attractions? The answer depends on where you are, because urban and rural lifestyles couldn't be more different. In the booming megacities, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, mornings begin with crowded subway rides, where millions of commuters move with clockwork efficiency. Offices open early, and the work culture is fast-paced, often compared to New York's hustle. But unlike the West, lunch breaks are still valued, and you might find entire office floors napping at their desks before diving back into the afternoon grind. By nightfall, these cities light up with neon skylines, buzzing night markets, karaoke bars, and a cafe culture that stays awake long after midnight. In contrast, rural China still follows the rhythm of nature. Farmers rise with the sun, tending to rice paddies or tea fields. Villages are quieter, life is slower, and neighbors know each other by name. Here, traditions feel alive, family meals, festivals, and community ties remain the heart of daily life. One of the biggest contrasts for Western visitors is how technology dominates daily routines. In the UK or US, you might carry a wallet, swipe a card, or use different apps for banking, shopping, and messaging. In China, a single super app like WeChat can do it all, from paying for groceries to booking a doctor's appointment, even splitting a restaurant bill with friends. Street vendors, taxi drivers, luxury malls, almost everyone accepts mobile payment, making cash nearly obsolete. Shopping itself is a cultural experience. While London has Oxford Street and New York has Fifth Avenue, Shanghai has entire districts buzzing with luxury brands, quirky boutiques, and massive night markets where bargaining is part of the fun. Even grocery shopping has gone digital, with apps delivering fresh produce to doorsteps in under an hour. For Westerners, a day in China can feel like stepping into the future and the past at once. High-speed trains that make cross-country travel faster than a flight, but also morning Tai Chi groups practicing quietly in local parks. It's a balance of modern convenience and ancient rhythm, a daily life that reflects the complexity and beauty of China itself. For decades, the world has called China the factory of the world, a place where everything from smartphones to sneakers was produced on a massive scale. But in 2025, that image only tells part of the story. Yes, manufacturing still plays a vital role, but China is rapidly transforming into a leader in artificial intelligence, green energy, and advanced technology. Think of Shenzhen, once a fishing village, now a global hub of innovation where companies develop drones, electric cars, and next-generation robotics. Or Shanghai, home to financial districts and research labs pushing the boundaries of AI and biotech. The same country that built its strength on mass production is now investing heavily in the industries of tomorrow. For foreigners, this shift creates new job opportunities. While teaching English was once the most common route for expats, today China attracts professionals in finance, engineering, technology, and international trade. Some find careers in universities or global companies headquartered in Beijing or Shanghai. For entrepreneurs, China's massive consumer market can feel like a gold mine, though navigating business here requires cultural understanding and flexibility. But prosperity in China isn't evenly spread. The gleaming skyscrapers of cities like Guangzhou or Beijing stand in sharp contrast to rural towns where incomes remain modest. Regional differences in living standards are significant. Urban areas offer world-class infrastructure, high salaries, and access to global brands, while smaller cities and countryside communities still face challenges in education, healthcare, and income levels. For Western visitors, this divide can be striking. Imagine traveling from the futuristic skyline of Shanghai, brighter and taller than Manhattan, to a village where families still cook over wood stoves and barter in local markets. Both are authentically Chinese, both part of the same national story, yet worlds apart. China's economy today is a paradox, ancient and modern, local and global, uneven yet unstoppable. And it's this very contrast that makes it not just an economic giant, but also one of the most fascinating societies to explore and understand. For anyone planning a trip, or even considering a longer stay, one of the first questions is always, how expensive is China? The answer depends on where you go and how you choose to live. Let's start with housing. In Beijing and Shanghai, the cost of renting an apartment in the city center can be surprisingly close to prices in London or New York. A modern one-bedroom apartment may cost anywhere from $900 to $1,500 per month, $700 to $1,200 British pounds. But step outside the central districts or choose smaller cities like Chengdu, and prices drop dramatically. You might find similar housing for half the cost, sometimes even less. Food, however, is where China truly shines. A full meal at a local restaurant, complete with rice, meat, and vegetables, can cost as little as $3 to $5 USD or 2 to 4 pounds GBP. Street food is even cheaper and often just as delicious. But of course, international chains, fine dining, or Western-style cafes will cost more, sometimes on par with what you'd pay in New York or London. Transportation is another pleasant surprise. China's metro systems are some of the most advanced in the world, and tickets usually cost less than $1 USD, 80 pence GBP, per ride. High-speed trains, which connect cities faster than many flights, are far cheaper than similar journeys in the UK or US. A bullet train from Beijing to Shanghai, nearly the distance of London to Edinburgh, can cost around $70 USD, 55 pounds GBP in standard class, a fraction of what you'd pay for the equivalent trip in Britain. For travelers, expenses scale with preference. Backpackers can comfortably get by on $30 to $40 US per day, enjoying hostels, local food, and public transport. Mid-range travelers might budget around $70 to $100 US or 55 to 80 British pounds per day, covering comfortable hotels and restaurant dining. At the luxury end, 5-star hotels, private tours, and fine dining can cost nearly as much as in New York or London, if not more. So, compared to the West, China can feel like a bargain, especially outside the big cities. Whether you're traveling on a shoestring budget or seeking a 5-star experience, the country adapts to your wallet. And that's part of the magic. China is one of the rare places where you can live richly on little or lavishly on a lot, and still find experiences that stay priceless in memory. If you want to understand the future of China, look at how it invests in its people and its foundations. Education, healthcare, and infrastructure aren't just policies here, they're part of daily life, shaping how a nation of 1.4 billion people lives and grows. Let's begin with infrastructure, where China is already a global leader. The country's high-speed rail network is the envy of the world, stretching over 25,000 miles and connecting nearly every major city. Imagine traveling from London to Paris in under 2 hours. Now multiply that convenience across an entire nation. A journey from Beijing to Shanghai, roughly the same distance as New York to Chicago, takes just over 4 hours at speeds topping 200 miles per hour. For locals, these trains aren't a luxury. They're a daily tool that makes long-distance commuting possible. Next, education. China places enormous value on learning, a tradition rooted in Confucian ideals. Students here face a rigorous system with long school days and heavy homework loads. The highlight, or the pressure point, is the Gaokao, China's national university entrance exam, often described as one of the toughest tests in the world. For families, education is a path not just to success, but to honor. This creates immense discipline and high academic achievement, but also immense stress, a sharp contrast to the more balanced approaches often seen in the US or UK. Still, China's universities are rising fast in global rankings, attracting international students seeking both quality and affordability. And then there's healthcare. In major cities, modern hospitals and clinics rival those in the West, with state-of-the-art facilities and internationally trained doctors. For locals, basic healthcare is subsidized, though the quality can vary between urban and rural areas. Foreigners may find costs for private care relatively affordable compared to the US, where even a routine checkup can be eye-wateringly expensive. In China, advanced procedures or hospital stays often cost a fraction of what they would in America, making medical tourism an emerging trend. Taken together, these 3 pillars: fast trains, intense schools, and accessible healthcare reveal something important about modern China. This is a country that is building not just for today, but for tomorrow, racing forward with ambition, while still carrying the weight of tradition. If there's one way to truly understand China, it's through its food. With a history as rich as its dynasties, Chinese cuisine is not one flavor, but a symphony of regional tastes, spices, and traditions. Take Sichuan cuisine, famous for its fiery chili and numbing peppercorns. A single bite of mapo tofu or hotpot here is a roller coaster of heat and tingling spice, a taste so unique that travelers often crave it long after they've left. Then there's Cantonese dim sum, a culinary art of small bites, dumplings, buns, and delicacies steamed in bamboo baskets, shared over tea with family and friends. And of course, the iconic Peking duck. Its crispy golden skin and tender meat, once reserved for emperors, now a must-try dish for anyone visiting Beijing. But the heart of Chinese food culture beats loudest in its street markets. As the sun sets, alleyways transform into bustling food heavens. Skewers of lamb grilled over open flames, noodles tossed fresh in steaming woks, sweet candied hawthorn fruit glistening like jewels on sticks. In cities like Chengdu or Xi'an, night markets are not just about eating, they're about atmosphere, the laughter of families, the sizzling of oil, and the aromas that mix into one unforgettable memory. Compared to the West, where fast food chains dominate, China's version of fast food feels more alive, more personal. Instead of burgers and fries wrapped in paper, you might grab a baozi, a steaming bun filled with pork and vegetables, or a bowl of hand-pulled noodles cooked in front of your eyes, often for less than the price of a coffee in London or New York. What makes Chinese food culture so special is not just the variety, but the philosophy behind it: balance, sharing, and connection. Meals are designed to be eaten together, with dishes placed at the center of the table, turning food into a shared experience rather than a solo one. For visitors, every meal feels like an invitation into the rhythm of daily life. In China, every province tells its story through flavor. And the deeper you go from fine dining to a simple street stall, the more you taste not just food, but the spirit of a culture that has perfected the art of eating for thousands of years. To truly feel the soul of China, you have to experience its festivals, moments when tradition, family, and joy come alive on the streets. The grandest of all is Chinese New Year, or the Spring Festival. Imagine fireworks lighting up the night sky for weeks, red lanterns glowing in every home, and entire cities shutting down as millions of people return to their hometowns. It's the world's largest human migration, and at its heart lies reunion. Families sharing dumplings, giving red envelopes filled with luck, and honoring ancestors. For travelers, being in China during this time feels like stepping into a celebration as big as Christmas and New Year's combined. Then comes the Mid-Autumn Festival, a gentler holiday marked by glowing full moons and the sharing of mooncakes. Families gather to tell stories of Chang'e, the moon goddess, while children carry lanterns that light up the night. It's a festival about reunion and reflection, and yes, about indulging in sweet, rich mooncakes that symbolize harmony. Another favorite is the Dragon Boat Festival, where colorful boats shaped like dragons race furiously across rivers and lakes. The pounding of drums, the cheering crowds, and the rhythm of paddles create an electric atmosphere. At the same time, families eat sticky rice dumplings wrapped in bamboo leaves, a tradition that ties the festival to ancient legends of loyalty and sacrifice. But modern China doesn't stop at tradition. Cities like Shanghai and Beijing host international film festivals, fashion weeks, and music concerts that attract global stars. Valentine's Day, Christmas, and even Halloween have found their way into city life, celebrated in uniquely Chinese ways, often mixed with local traditions. For tourists, these festivals aren't just for locals. Many events are open, inviting, and welcoming. Visitors can join lantern displays, taste traditional foods, or even take part in dragon boat races. Whether it's the solemn beauty of ancestor rituals or the thrill of a neon-lit concert, China's celebrations prove that this is a country where the ancient and the modern dance together on the same stage. For many first-time visitors, one of the biggest questions is, how safe is China for tourists? The answer may surprise you. Compared to many Western countries, China is considered remarkably safe. Violent crime is rare, and even in massive cities like Beijing and Shanghai, it's common to see people walking the streets late at night without worry. Of course, like anywhere, petty theft can occur in crowded areas, so keeping an eye on belongings is still smart. But overall, China offers travelers a strong sense of security. Safety, however, isn't just about crime. It's also about understanding local etiquette, because respecting customs can make your experience far smoother. Greetings, for example, are polite but reserved. A slight nod or handshake is common, but hugs or cheek kisses, familiar in parts of Europe, are unusual. At the dining table, wait until the host begins eating and never stick chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice, as it resembles a funeral offering. Gift giving is also filled with meaning. Avoid clocks, which symbolize the end of life, and always present or receive items with both hands as a sign of respect. For Westerners, some cultural differences are surprising at first. The sheer scale of crowds in train stations or tourist sites can feel overwhelming compared to the quieter pace of the UK or the organized flow of New York. Another surprise is the pace of digital life. Almost everything, from paying a taxi driver to buying snacks, is done with mobile apps like WeChat or Alipay making cash, and even credit cards feel outdated. And then there's dining. Meals are designed for sharing, not for ordering individual plates, which can be a delightful shift once you embrace it. The best advice? Approach China with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and a bit of patience. What feels unfamiliar at first often becomes one of the most rewarding parts of the journey. Because here, safety isn't just about staying out of danger, it's about stepping into a culture respectfully and discovering that hospitality and warmth are at the heart of the Chinese experience. Behind the skyscrapers and cultural wonders, China also faces profound challenges, social, economic, and environmental, that shape the daily lives of its people. One of the most visible is pollution. For decades, China's rapid industrial growth came at the cost of smog-filled skies and polluted rivers. Cities like Beijing once struggled with air quality so severe it became global news. In recent years, however, the government has invested heavily in renewable energy, electric vehicles, and stricter environmental laws. Today, the skies are clearer than they were a decade ago, but the struggle between growth and green reform is ongoing. Another pressing issue is the aging population. With longer lifespans and decades of one-child policy behind it, China is now one of the fastest aging societies in the world. This creates pressure on healthcare systems and younger generations, who often carry the responsibility of supporting both parents and grandparents. Imagine being in your 20s, building a career, while also expected to uphold family duty for 3 or even 4 elders, a weight many young Chinese describe as overwhelming. The urban-rural divide is another challenge. While cities like Shanghai or Shenzhen enjoy modern infrastructure and higher incomes, rural areas often lag behind, with fewer opportunities and limited access to top-tier education or healthcare. For visitors, the contrast can be startling. Futuristic bullet trains gliding past villages where daily life has barely changed in decades. And then there's the pressure on young professionals. In the West, work-life balance is a constant conversation. In China, terms like 9696, working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week reflect the intensity of modern corporate culture. For many, success means sacrificing personal time, relationships, even health, to stay competitive in crowded job markets. At the same time, rising housing prices in major cities make it difficult for young people to achieve milestones like home ownership. Yet there's resilience here. Across the nation, reforms are being introduced, startups are challenging old systems, and environmental efforts are making visible progress. The challenges are real, but so is the determination to face them, a determination that echoes the endurance of China's long history. China is often talked about in headlines, but the reality of daily life here is far more complex and often surprising than the myths suggest. One common myth is that daily life is defined by censorship and restriction. While it's true that the internet is closely monitored and platforms like Facebook or Google are blocked, locals don't see their lives as cut off. Instead, they live in an ecosystem of apps WeChat, Alipay, Weibo, that provide everything from messaging to payments to shopping. To a traveler, it feels futuristic, not restrictive. Another misconception is that Chinese culture is uniform, a single lifestyle repeated across the country. In reality, China is one of the most diverse nations on Earth, with 56 recognized ethnic groups and hundreds of dialects. Life in cosmopolitan Shanghai is worlds apart from a Tibetan monastery in the West, or a fishing village in Fujian. To say China is one thing is like saying Europe is one country. It overlooks the richness within. Western visitors are also often surprised by the lifestyle differences. For example, personal space is smaller in China, crowded metros or markets are the norm, and people adapt comfortably. Dining etiquette flips Western norms. Sharing dishes is expected, and refusing food can seem impolite. Even the concept of face, maintaining dignity and reputation, shapes conversations and business interactions in ways that are subtle but deeply important. And then there are the quirky facts most tourists never expect. Did you know that China has entire ghost cities, fully built urban areas with futuristic architecture, still waiting for residents? Or that KFC is the most popular Western fast food chain here, even adapting menus to include rice dishes and egg tarts? You might be surprised to learn that China has more people studying English than the entire population of the United States. These myths and surprises remind us of something important. China is never just one story. It's a country of contrasts, ancient and modern, traditional and futuristic, misunderstood yet endlessly fascinating. And the only way to truly know it is to see it with your own eyes. Traveling through China can feel overwhelming at first, the size, the crowds, the sheer scale of everything. But once you understand how the system works, you'll realize it's one of the most efficient travel experiences in the world. Let's start with transportation. China's metro systems are some of the best in the world, clean, fast, and affordable, connecting even the outer suburbs of cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. Signs are usually in both Chinese and English, making it easier for international travelers to navigate. For longer distances, the legendary bullet trains are a game changer. Imagine traveling from Beijing to Shanghai over 800 miles in just about 4 hours. It's faster than flying once you count airport delays, and far more comfortable. In cities, taxis and ride-hailing apps are widely available, though visitors often find bike sharing just as convenient. With a scan of a QR code, you can unlock a bright-colored bike on nearly every street corner, a cheap, healthy, and fun way to explore. When it comes to money, this is where Western travelers face their first surprise. China is nearly cashless. Locals use apps like WeChat Pay and Alipay for everything from luxury shopping to buying fruit from a street vendor. While foreigners may find mobile payment setup tricky without a local bank account, some apps now allow international cards. Still, carrying some cash is wise, especially in smaller towns or rural areas. And then there's connectivity. Internet access in China is reliable, but many popular Western sites, Google, Facebook, YouTube, are blocked. Most travelers solve this with a VPN, allowing them to access the same apps they use back home. For phone service, buying a local SIM card is easy at airports and convenience stores, giving you affordable data for maps, translation, and ride-hailing apps. The key takeaway? With metros, bullet trains, and mobile payments, China is built for convenience. Once you adjust to the differences, getting around becomes not just simple, but part of the adventure itself. For some visitors, a trip to China sparks a bigger question. What if I lived here? Relocating to China can be challenging, but for many expats, it's also deeply rewarding. First, let's talk visas. The most common categories are work visas, business visas, and student visas. English teachers often enter on the Z visa, while professionals in finance, technology, and engineering use specialized work permits. China has also made it easier for highly skilled workers to relocate, offering pathways for long-term residence in certain industries. Once you're in, the next question is where to live. The major expat hubs include Beijing, with its political influence and rich history, Shanghai, a global financial powerhouse with a cosmopolitan vibe, and Shenzhen, a city of innovation and startups. For those seeking a slower pace, Chengdu is popular for its laid-back lifestyle, spicy cuisine, and access to nature. Each city offers a different balance between modern convenience and cultural immersion. Housing varies widely. In Shanghai, sleek apartments with skyline views can rival the prices of London rentals, while in smaller cities, comfortable housing is surprisingly affordable. Many expats find themselves sharing apartments or renting serviced flats in expat-friendly neighborhoods that offer both comfort and community. But relocation isn't without its challenges. Language barriers can feel intimidating, daily life is heavily app-based, and cultural norms from dining etiquette to business interactions require adjustment. There's also the reality of distance from family and friends back home. Yet the rewards are equally powerful: exposure to one of the world's oldest cultures, opportunities in a booming economy, and the chance to live in a country that feels both ancient and futuristic. Compared to moving within the US or UK, relocating to China demands a bigger leap in language, lifestyle, and mindset. But that's also what makes it exciting. For those willing to adapt, China offers not just a new home, but a completely new perspective on life itself. As our journey comes to an end, one truth becomes clear. China is a land of contrasts. It is ancient, yet futuristic. It is rooted in tradition, yet racing ahead with innovation. Here, you can walk along a wall built 2,000 years ago in the morning, and by evening, gaze out from a skyscraper taller than almost any in the West. China is not a single story. It is thousands of stories woven together. Dynasties that shaped philosophy and art, landscapes that look like paintings, cities that feel like science fiction, and communities where family values and hospitality remain at the core of daily life. And perhaps that's the magic. No matter how much you explore, there's always more in China waiting for you. Another village, another mountain, another flavor, another story always just around the corner. If this journey inspired you, then let's keep exploring the world together. This is like a free ticket. Just a like, a subscribe, and even a small comment helps bring the next adventure right to you. Share this video with fellow travelers, and let's keep uncovering the wonders of our world, one destination at a time.